You're watching the History Fella channel. In this video we're looking at the Second Battle of Fort Wagner. Fort Wagner would become synonymous with the bravery and sacrifice of the Union's first regiments raised from the African American community in the north, the 54th Massachusetts. Once President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation had come into effect at the beginning of 1863, Secretary of State for War Edwin M. Stanton had instructed the Governor of Massachusetts, John A. Andrew, to begin raising all black regiments from the free black communities in the north. In February, after several failed attempts, Governor Andrew persuaded Captain Robert Gould Shaw, from a prominent abolitionist family in Long Island, New York, to become the new regimental commander. Promoted to colonel, Gould Shaw would now recruit fellow abolitionist white officers to staff the unit. By May it was mustered into service and marched out of Boston, heading for the Carolinas, where it became part of the 10th Corps. Charleston was a prominent and politically important city and harbour for the South government. Secession had begun there in April 1861, and to many Southerners in the cradle of their cause. By the summer of 1863, Union forces had been blockading the harbour and outlying areas for many months, thus making it irrelevant as a supply base to Confederate forces. Nevertheless, the Union, if they took the city, then the damage to Southern morale would be immense. Guarding the southern entrance to the harbour was a strip of land known as Morris Island, and at its tip was Fort Wagner, a significant obstacle with 30-foot high walls and a 300 by 600-foot trench system, with a garrison of 1,600 troops protected in a bomb-proof bunker, 10 heavy cannons stationed on the ramparts, and an effective mortar that could endanger Union ships out to sea. It was a tough nut to crack. The Union 10th Corps, led by Brigadier General Quincy Gilmore, had attempted an earlier assault on July the 11th, and then bloodily repulsed with 389 casualties. Before the second attack would go in a week later, Gilmore aimed to draw away Confederate reinforcements from the intended target by a secondary attack on the other side of the island at Grimball's Landing, combined with a major barrage against Fort Wagner itself. The only approach to the fort by infantry was filing through a 160-foot wide strip of sandy beach that was sandwiched between the Atlantic Ocean to the east and a thick swamp to the west. The Union assault would consist of units from 3 brigades totaling 5,000 men, but their impact of numbers lessened due to the corridor of land that allowed only one regiment at a time to navigate itself towards the target. Colonel Gould Shaw volunteered as 54th Massachusetts to lead the attack, seize the ramparts, and hold out for reinforcements from the white regiments of the 6th Connecticut and the 48th New York in the wave immediately behind them. If the gap was exploited, then the remaining Union regiments would support to take the whole position. Heavy casualties in the leading regiments were expected. At 7:45 the bombardment stopped and the 54th Massachusetts stormed forward. The Confederate garrison rapidly leaving their protected bunker to man their positions and allow the Union troops to within 150 yards and their positions before issuing a storm of musketry, canister and artillery fire at the ranks of blue. Taking horrendous casualties as they stormed up and onto the fort's parapets, the Union troops fought hand-to-hand with the Confederate defenders. Gould Shaw was killed instantly by musketry. The supporting Connecticut and New York regiments struggled to make way on the 54th's western flank, and after 2 hours of further fighting, rebel reinforcements succeeded in driving off the Union assault, capturing and killing many black troops. Overall casualties were 1,515 men, with the Confederate commander reporting his men as buried at least 800 Union bodies. Of the 600 men who had made the charge, the 54th suffered 270 casualties, one of their number being Sergeant Lewis Douglas, son of the famous black orator Frederick Douglass. Colonel Gouldshaw and the white officers from the regiment that were killed were buried alongside their men in a mass grave. Despite the failure of the attack and the heavy casualties, the siege went on for a further 60 days before Battery Wagner surrendered. The impact of the reported heroic performance of the 54th Massachusetts galvanized Northern opinion as to the fighting effectiveness of black troops. As a result, the public radically got behind their recruiting and mustering of thousands of free blacks across the Union. By the end of the war, over 180,000 had enlisted, constituting 10% of the Federal Armed Forces by 1865. If you found this video informative, please feel free to give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you very much for watching and listening to this video.